Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into a really important topic. 8 signs you might be toxic to yourself. We're going to take a hard look in the mirror, folks, because sometimes the most toxic relationship you can have is the one you have with yourself. We need to break these patterns and start treating ourselves with the same kindness and compassion we offer others. Stick around, because you won't want to miss these eye-opening stories. Let me tell you about Sarah, a bright young woman I met who was stuck in a rut. Sarah was constantly putting herself down, telling herself she wasn't good enough, smart enough, or pretty enough. She had this inner voice, this inner critic that just wouldn't quit. Every time she achieved something, that voice would whisper, "It wasn't good enough," or "You just got lucky this time." Imagine living with that kind of negativity constantly swirling in your head. This is classic self-toxic behavior, folks. We are not defined by our past mistakes or other people's opinions. It starts by recognizing that inner critic and challenging those negative thoughts. Remember, you are your own worst critic, and it's time to start being your own biggest cheerleader. Now let's talk about Mark. Mark was the kind of guy who would bend over backward for anyone. He was always there for his friends, family, even strangers, always putting everyone else's needs before his own. Mark was running on fumes. He was so busy taking care of everyone else that he completely neglected his own well-being. He was exhausted, stressed, and emotionally drained. This is a classic sign of being toxic to yourself, folks. When you constantly put others' needs before your own, you're essentially telling yourself that you don't matter. Self-care isn't selfish, folks. It's essential. You need to take care of yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally if you want to be there for the people you care about. You know, I've met a lot of people in my life who are masters of avoidance. They sweep their problems under the rug, hoping they'll magically disappear. Take Lisa, for instance. Lisa was facing some tough times. Her business was struggling, her marriage was on the rocks, and she felt completely overwhelmed. But instead of facing her problems head-on, she started avoiding them. She threw herself into work, started drinking more than usual, and distanced herself from her loved ones. But here's the thing about avoidance, folks. It only makes things worse. Those problems, they don't just disappear. They fester and grow, becoming bigger and more overwhelming. Facing your problems head-on can be scary, but it's the only way to truly overcome them. We all have that little voice inside our heads, the one that comments on our every move. But for some people, that voice is a relentless bully, constantly putting them down and chipping away at their self-esteem. Take John, for example. John was a talented artist, but he never let himself believe in his abilities. Every time he picked up a paintbrush, that voice would start in, telling him he wasn't good enough, that he'd never make it as an artist. Negative self-talk can be incredibly damaging, folks. It can hold you back from pursuing your dreams, from reaching your full potential. But here's the good news. You can change that inner dialogue. You can challenge those negative thoughts, replace them with positive affirmations, and start believing in yourself. We're social creatures, folks. We need connection. We need community. But when we're being toxic to ourselves, one of the first things we do is isolate ourselves. We withdraw from our loved ones, push people away, and shut ourselves off from the world. Take Maria, for example. Maria was going through a rough patch. She'd lost her job, her confidence was shattered, and she felt like a complete failure. Instead of reaching out to her friends and family for support, she started isolating herself. Isolation might seem like a safe haven, a way to protect ourselves from further hurt, but in reality, it only makes things worse. It feeds into those negative thought patterns, amplifies our fears and insecurities, and prevents us from getting the support we need. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be the best version of yourself. But when those expectations become unrealistic, when you're constantly striving for perfection, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and self-sabotage. Let me tell you about David. David was a high achiever, always striving for excellence. He had this image in his mind of the perfect life, the perfect career, the perfect family. But here's the thing about perfection, folks. It's an illusion. It's unattainable. David's relentless pursuit of perfection took a toll on his health, his relationships, and his overall well-being. He was so focused on achieving this idealized version of himself that he lost sight of what truly mattered. Enjoying the journey, appreciating his accomplishments, and giving himself permission to be human. You know, our bodies are pretty amazing machines. They're constantly sending us signals, trying to tell us what they need. But when we're being toxic to ourselves, we often ignore those signals. Take Emily, for instance. Emily was a workaholic, always on the go. She thrived on stress, fueled her body with caffeine and fast food, and rarely made time for exercise or restful sleep. But our bodies keep score, folks. All that stress, all those unhealthy habits, they catch up with us eventually. Ignoring your physical health is like driving a car with a flashing engine light. You might be able to ignore it for a while, but eventually, that engine is going to give out. Now, we've talked a lot about the relationship we have with ourselves, but we can't underestimate the impact of our relationships with others. Staying in toxic relationships, whether it's with a partner, a friend, or even a family member, can be incredibly damaging to our well-being. Let me tell you about Jessica. Jessica had a long history of toxic relationships. She was drawn to partners who were emotionally unavailable, controlling, or even abusive. She kept hoping things would change, that they would magically transform into the loving, supportive partner she craved. But hoping for change isn't enough, folks. Toxic relationships rarely, if ever, magically transform. Staying in these unhealthy dynamics can chip away at your self-esteem, your sense of worth, and your overall happiness. Recognizing the red flags of toxic relationships is crucial. Pay attention to how you feel when you're with these people. Do they lift you up or bring you down? Look, we've covered a lot of ground today, folks. We've talked about self-criticism, neglecting self-care, avoidance, negative self-talk, isolation, unrealistic expectations, poor physical health, and toxic relationships. These are all signs that you might be toxic to yourself. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts, your experiences. Let us know in the comments if you've ever experienced any of these signs and how you overcame them. See you in the next video.